Okay, guys, let's get into it. This is Spice Island Podcast, and this is the segment What in the Bleep? You already know, fill in the blank is going on. All right, so here we're going to delve into a little bit of it. I don't know if everyone has heard of Virginia Giuffre. It's not pronounced Giuffre, it's pronounced Giuffre. Um, she has passed away in Australia. News had broke yesterday. I believe actually last night or early this morning that she passed away. So we are going to get into it. All right, guys. So this is going to be about Virginia Louise Roberts. That's how she was born. And if you go on her Instagram now, it is no longer Virginia Giuffre. It is Virginia Roberts. Okay, so I'm going to address her the way she obviously wanted to be addressed before she passed. Okay, so we're gonna get into a little bit of it. So Virginia Giuffre, who accused Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein of sexual abuse, has died by suicide aged 41. That is what her family is saying. Ms. Giuffre was one of the most outspoken accusers of convicted sex offenders Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, his former girlfriend. She alleged they trafficked her to the Duke of York when she was 17, which Prince Andrew has strenuously denied. Relatives said in a statement on Friday that she had been a fierce warrior in the fight against sexual abuse, and that the toll of abuse became unbearable. She lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and sex trafficking, they said. The statement described the mother of three as the light that lifted so many survivors and said she died on Friday at her farm in Western Australia. West Australia police said they were called to the home in the Neargaby area on Friday night, where Miss Giuffre was found unresponsive. A statement continued. The death is being investigated by major crime detectives. Early indication is the death is not suspicious. Miss Giuffre, who was born in the U.S., had been living with her children and husband Robert in the suburb of North Perth, although recent reports suggested the couple had split after 22 years of marriage. 3 weeks ago, Ms. Giuffre posted on Instagram to say she had been seriously injured in a car accident, which her family later said she had not intended to make public. Local police later disputed the severity of the crash. In a statement, Ms. Giuffre, longtime spokesperson Denny Don Muffling, described her as one of the most extraordinary human beings I have ever had the honor to know. She said, Ms. Giuffre was a beacon to other survivors and victims, and that it was the privilege of a lifetime to represent her. After making her abuse allegations public, Ms. Giuffre became a prominent campaigner and was closely associated with the Me Too movement. Ms. Giuffre alleged that Epstein and Maxwell trafficked her to Prince Andrew when she was 17. The prince, who has denied all claims against him, reached an out-of-court settlement with her in 2022. Okay. The settlement included a statement in which expressed regret for his association with Epstein, but contained no admission of liability or apology. Ms. Giuffre said she became a victim of sex trafficking when she was a teenager. She said she met Maxwell, a British socialite, in 2000. From there, she said she was introduced to American financier, and alleged years of abuse, okay, and trafficking. This is really sad. So Epstein took his own life apparently in prison in 2019, where he was being held awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. He was previously convicted in 2008, however, for soliciting prosecution from a minor. Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison in the U.S. for her role in Epstein's trafficking and abuse. I believe that happened back in 2022. Same time she had the settlement with Prince Andrew. Okay? So that could be part of the reason why. So we have to now get into the timeline of when this whole thing started with Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to go down the rabbit hole, guys. So, like, literally, we're going to go down the rabbit hole. So we're going to line. Okay, so from the moment he first faced criminal charges in 2006, Jeffrey Epstein has been the object of public fascination, conspiracy theories, and outrage, especially after his lawyers got prosecutors to agree to a lenient plea deal that spared him from serious prison time. Okay? Epstein was eventually arrested again, but died by suicide while awaiting trial in 2019. So we're going to break down the timeline of the case against him and his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was sentenced to 20 years in prison for helping him abuse teenage girls. So it all started March 2005. Police in Palm Beach, Florida began investigating Epstein after the family of a 14-year-old girl reports she was molested at his mansion. Multiple underage girls, many of them high school students, would later tell police that Epstein hired them to give sensual massages. Okay, we're just going to say it's the sex word, but we're going to say sensual massages. May 2006, Palm Beach police officials signed paperwork to charge Epstein with multiple counts of unlawful sex with a minor, but the county's top prosecutor, state attorney Barry Krishner, takes the unusual step of sending the case to a grand jury. July 2006, Epstein is arrested after a grand jury indicts him on a single count of soliciting prostitution. The relatively minor charge draws almost immediate attention from critics, including Palm Beach police leaders, who assail Krishna publicly and accuse him of giving Epstein special treatment. The FBI then begins an investigation. So in 2007, federal prosecutors prepare an indictment against Epstein. But for a year, the money manager's lawyer engaged in talks with the U.S. attorney in Miami, and where Alexander Acosta, about a plea bargain that would allow Epstein to avoid federal prosecution. Epstein's lawyers decree his accusers as unreliable witnesses. Okay? So, June 2008, Epstein pleads guilty to state charges: one count of soliciting prostitution and one count of soliciting prostitution from someone under the age of 18. He is sentenced to 18 months in jail. However, under a secret arrangement, the U.S. Attorney's Office agrees not to prosecute Epstein for federal crimes. Epstein served most of his sentence in a work release program that allows him to leave jail during the day to go to his office, then return at night. By July 2009, Epstein is released from jail. For the next decade, multiple women who say they are Epstein's victims wage a legal fight to get his federal non-prosecution agreement voided and hold him and others liable for the abuse. One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Giuffre, says in her lawsuits that, starting when she was 17, Epstein and his girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell set up sensual encounters with royalty, politicians, academicians, businessmen, and other rich and powerful men, including Britain's Prince Andrew, allegedly. All of those men deny the allegations. November 2018, the Miami Herald revisits the handling of Epstein's case in a series of stories focusing partly on the role of Accuser, who by this point is President Donald Trump's labor secretary, in arranging his unusual plea deal. The coverage renews public interest in the case. This is around the time that Trump wasn't, running for president and became president. So July 6, 2019, Epstein was arrested on federal sex trafficking charges after federal prosecutors in New York concluded that they weren't bound by the terms of the earlier non-prosecution deal. So days later, Accuser resigns as labor secretary amid public outrage over his role in the initial investigation. August 10th of 2019, guards find Epstein dead in his cell at a federal jail in New York City. Investigators conclude he killed himself. We, however, the public, don't believe that. But continue. July 2nd, 2020, federal prosecutors in New York charge Ms. Ghislaine Maxwell with sex crimes, saying she helped recruit the underage girls that Epstein sensually abused and sometimes participated in the abuse herself. So by December 30th, 2021, after a month-long trial, a jury convicts Maxwell of multiple charges, including sex trafficking, conspiracy, and transportation of a minor for illegal sensual activities. June 28th of 2022, Maxwell is sentenced to 20 years in prison. And I believe around, maybe by that time, by the end of that year anyways, Mrs. Giuffre and Prince Andrew had actually settled out of court for a large sum. Now, it was never actually disclosed exactly how much the sum was, but different news reports were saying, it could be between 12 to 13 million dollars settlement out of court with Virginia Giuffre and Andrew. So, that is something we have to get into. Now, the part that strikes me odd, and I think the internet is in a bit of uproar because of it, and I would, say by all means they have all rights to be in an uproar. About a month ago, Virginia Giuffre posted on her Instagram that she was in a car accident and she only has 4 days to live. Now, there's a lot of speculation with this car crash that happened, and this car crash apparently happened with a school bus in near Gabby, near to where she lived, 1 hour north of Perth, Australia. So I'm going to try to see if I can pull up a report about this accident. It's really weird. So yeah, it says here, I'm taking this from People magazine, maybe not the most trusted source, but I mean, same news mostly all over. So it says here, Virginia Giuffre recently posted a picture of her bruised face on Instagram, saying she had been in a road accident and was told she had 4 days to live. Giuffre has alleged she has been abused by her husband of 22 years. Okay, this is apparently the top of the headline, guys. I don't know where that came in, but it's in the top of the headline. Giuffre has said she was a sex abuse victim of Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew. Epstein died by suicide in jail, and Andrew denied the allegation. So, they keep referring to her as Jeffrey Epstein Accuser. I am going to continue calling her Virginia Roberts, aka formerly known as Virginia Giuffre, was released from the hospital on Monday, April 7th. A week after saying she was near death following a vehicle accident with a bus, Virginia, who's 41 years old, was released from the Sir Charles Gardner Hospital in Perth. Her rep confirms to People. The rep didn't provide any additional information about her health, but they confirmed that she was released from the Sir Charles Gardner Hospital. On Sunday, March 30th, Virginia said on Instagram that she was in the hospital and near death after the car in which she was riding on March 24th was struck by a school bus going more than 49 miles per hour. And quote, "I have gone into kidney renal failure," she wrote next to a photo of herself lying in a hospital bed with her face covered in bruises. "They've given me 4 days to live, transferring me to a specialist hospital in urology." And I'm gonna post the photo of her looking banged up as hell, and you can tell she's actually in a hospital bed. Okay. Now, her exact post under the photo says, "This year has been the worst start to a new year, but I won't bore anyone with the details. But I think it's important to note that when a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 kilometers, 10 kilometers as we were slowing for a turn, that no matter what your car is made of, it might as well be a tin can. I've gone into kidney renal failure. They've given me 4 days to live, transferring me to a specialist hospital in urology. I'm ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time. But you know what they say about wishes. Shit in one hand and wish in the other, and I guarantee it's still going to be shit at the end of the day. Thank you all for being the wonderful people of the world and for being a great part of my life. God bless you all. Virginia." That post has me a little weird, but okay. Now, while she was in hospital, she came forward with allegations of abuse against her husband of 22 years, Robert Giuffre. In an exclusive statement to People, Virginia said, "I was able to fight back against Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, who abused and trafficked me. But I was unable to escape the domestic violence in my marriage until recently. After my husband's latest physical assault, I can no longer stay silent." Speaking exclusively to People, Virginia's brother, Sky Roberts, and his wife, Amanda, both 36, say Virginia is speaking out of the allegation because of the severity of her injuries. "I think the last incident that they had, she almost died," Amanda says, about the alleged January 9th beating. "And we had to speak the truth with her on the phone. And I think she had acknowledged that if she had one more instance with him, she wasn't making it out of there. The last time Robert allegedly beat Virginia was on January 9th, which left her with a cracked sternum and a perforated eye. Among other injuries, she was transported to the hospital for her injuries," her spokeswoman says. Oh, this is crazy. His attorney told People in an email, "Unfortunately, as the issues you raise are before the courts in Australia, both he and anyone associated with the case, including Ms. Giuffre or her agents, are prohibited from discussing or utilizing the media. Therefore, there's no comment." I found that very weird. So, there is actually a video of her posting thanks and whatnot to the hospital and the nurses that took care of her, and you can tell in that video that she did have a black eye. It looked like there was like some scarring around her neck. I would say strangled, definitely. It was really bad. It was really, 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 really bad. I'm gonna see if I can get a video of that and put it at the end in the clip. But I mean, looking through her Instagram, I was telling myself, oh, maybe things didn't start getting bad until March. Because literally, March 1st, she started posting these cryptic messages. I'm going to try to see if I can insert them. These cryptic messages, guys, that is just, looking back now and looking at everything now, it's just like, maybe we should have paid a little bit more attention if this is really suicide. But at the same time, I'm having a bit of suspicion that this is not suicide. I'm going towards more of she was silenced and it was made to look like suicide. But to find out that her husband was also putting hands on her, there's a lot of videos where she's in the hospital, and you're wondering what's wrong because she hasn't fully come out. There's only one incident where she said, oh, she was riding an ATV with her daughter, and they were chasing, I don't know, monsters or something like that in the woods, and she must have fell off the ATV and injured herself and blah 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 blah. But now that she was recently hospitalized last month or whatever for the car crash, and she stated that her husband's been abusing her, when you look back at those little short videos now and the photos of her in the hospital, now you're like, okay, it's kind of, 1 and 1 makes 2 and 2 and 2 makes 4. It's adding up, right? So yeah, that's basically what it is. So anyways, let's get back into it. So Sky and Amanda note that they don't know whether Virginia's medical issues were caused by the crash, a recent beating she allegedly suffered, or a combination of the two. So Sky is actually her father. Sky Roberts is her father. Amanda, I'm not sure who Amanda is because her mother is Lynn. So maybe Amanda. Maybe Amanda is somebody else. But Sky, I know, is her father. Amanda, I don't know if Amanda's a sister. I'm not sure. But let's be clear. She never stated in the bus accident the cause of all her other injuries, says Sky. But I do think that the bus crash in some way, shape, or form saved her life. It could have been a blessing in disguise. Adding that he doesn't know specifically what happened internally to her, Sky, an auto claims adjuster, says Virginia's bruising is consistent with a car crash. Robert recently filed a family violence restraining order, which is her husband, Robert Giuffre. Robert Giuffre recently filed a family violence restraining order against her, alleging that she had become violent with him. But basically Sky is saying he just happens to put his in place first. So now she's on the defense. So basically, Sky is basically saying that Virginia should have been the one to put her violent restraining order in, but Robert beat her to it, and now she's on the defending side. So she was accused of breaching the restraining order, however, by texting Robert on February 2nd in Perth. Okay, and that was the first report. Now, like I said, when you look on her Instagram from March 1st going on, you start seeing cryptic messages, and I'm guessing this is when things really started taking a toll. And then March 24th, she's in a car and bus accident, and then a month later you're dead. It's kind of weird. Anyhow, so she was scheduled for court on the 9th. Anyhow, so February the 2nd, she breached the restraining order, and April 9th she had a hearing in court on that matter. She's, like I said, 41 years old. Previously spoke out as an alleged victim of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, who's 66, who died in jail cell 2019, and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell, 63, who's currently serving a prison sentence for child sex trafficking in connection with Epstein. So, yeah, that's the thing. So the part about the accident too, guys, I want to also let you guys know that with the accident, it was stated that, well, someone close to her basically stated that the post that she made on Instagram about having 4 days left to live, apparently that was by accident. That post was supposed to go to her private area in Facebook, but somehow ended up publicly on Instagram. I'm not buying that. That doesn't make sense. That sounds like let's just try to cover up what she said and make it make sense, but it didn't make sense because there's no way you can accidentally confuse Instagram public and Facebook private. Two different sites, two different monoface. Girl, bye. That ain't making sense. Whoever came up with that, it ain't making sense. Now, moving on. What's weird about the accident is the bus driver did not report the accident until the next day, the 25th of March. Okay? The accident happened on the 24th. The accident was not reported until the 25th of March. However, police had said when they got the report of the accident, there was no injuries reported and that there was less than $2,000 at the time of damage to the car. $2,000 of damage to the car at the time. So people were kind of like, oh, that doesn't make sense, you know. How come the police are saying her injuries were minor, and then she's posting that she's in the hospital, she was given 4 days to live, blah, 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 blah. So after some investigation, they came and I guess got to find out that what had happened was the accident did happen. She did not report the accident. She did not get medical attention right away. She actually went home. Now, when she went home, apparently, you know, the family or whoever it is, you know, must have seen her badly bruised and battered. And unfortunately, she was not rushed or forced to go to the hospital until days later, when her injuries started to worsen. So the accident happened on the 24th of March. She did not go to the hospital. She did not report the accident. Matter of fact, the accident was not reported until the 25th, the next day, by the bus driver. And police said that there was no injuries reported at the time. However, hospital has also said that her injuries were more so minor than serious. So when March 30th, when she posted that photo, that is literally 5 days, 6 days, about 5 to 6 days after the accident, right? The initial accident. So I'm trying to figure out, for those 5 days, like, what were you doing? I mean, why wasn't anyone checking on you like that to say, okay, no, you should have reported this? Why didn't you go to the hospital right away? Like, I mean, for the sake of even insurance, like, a school bus hit you, baby girl. That is money. Hello. Not only that is money, that can also be internal injuries that you just don't know what's happening. So I am so confused as to why it took 5 to 6 days to go to the hospital. And apparently she was forced. The family had to force her to seek medical attention, okay? And then she gets to the hospital and she posts up this picture with her in a hospital bed saying she has 4 days to live. I mean, come on, guys. That's pretty weird, isn't it? Yeah, I would say it is. So like I said, the police said, no report of injuries. Hospital says injuries are minor. Father says, I mean, the injuries can be from a beating that happened in January from the ex-husband, well, ex-husband to be, and the crash. And it's just a lot of weird things happening. But I want to make it very clear. Back in 2019, after the news of Jeffrey Epstein, suicidal death in prison, because it happened in August 2019 when Epstein took himself out. Yeah. And then by December 2019, Miss Giuffre posted loud and clear online that she wants to make it publicly known that in no way, form, shape, or whatever, she's suicidal. And that if anything were to happen, that she's being silenced, and that people should not let this go for the sake of her family. And there's a lot of people that want her silenced. They want her quieted. So this was in 2019. So now to be in 2025 and to hear the family come out and say, hey, yeah, she killed herself. The cops are saying they're still investigating. However, there's no evidence of any suspicions. But the cops did not give a thorough, like, oh yeah, for sure, it's just, it was. So my thing is, why did the family come out here and put out such a statement so fast? I mean, it was literally barely 5 to 6 hours after Giuffre, Virginia Roberts was pronounced dead in her home or found unresponsive. Maybe about 5 to 6 hours later, statements being put out by the family saying that she took herself out. That is mind-boggling, guys. And I'm praying that the Australian police really do investigation. Like, really investigate, because this is really weird, guys. It's not making sense. It's not making any sense whatsoever. So, I really want you guys to leave comments down in the bottom and let me know how you feel about this, because this is not sitting right with me. This is something we need to talk about. This is something that we definitely should not just let go and just take it as just that. However, I'm not gonna lie, there is posts that I see that that she's made that it can make you believe that there's a possibility she did take herself out. All right, anything is possible, but I find it weird, and I feel like we shouldn't just let it go. We shouldn't just let this go right away. This needs to be thoroughly investigated, okay? Because there's questions too that's kind of bothering. Who did she live with? I mean, because at one point they said she lived with the husband and the 3 children in Perth, or 1 hour north of Perth, but technically no. She lived there on a farm. It was a hobby farm. I'm guessing her, the husband, and the children would go there usually when they're on good terms, when they're all living together in Perth. They would go to this this farm in the north as a hobby, and maybe hang out there for vacation or whatever. But since her and Robert Giuffre were going through a split, apparently she was living out on the farm by herself. So the questions that I started to ask right away when I heard the news was, okay, they said she, on Friday at about 10 to 10 p.m., so that would be about 9:50 p.m., emergency was called to the farm, which is in a rural area, right? It's, like I said, it's 1 hour north of Perth. The police was called. So the first question I had were, well, does she live with anyone else at the farm? And if she does, who were they? Who are these people? 1. 2, she was found unresponsive and were not able to be revived. That's one of the other things they said. Okay. Found unresponsive, meaning, and then the police said there's no signs of anything suspicious. So that means there's no marks on her. There is, nothing suspicious to say, oh, foul play, right? Or she was attacked or anything like that. So my thing is, suicide by what? For the family to come out and say suicide by what? Was there pills found? What's going on? We need to know. There was some more questions I had, y'all. Okay, so like I said, who called the emergency personnel? Did she live with anyone on the farm? Were there any workers that were on the property? And if yes, did she have to let them in, or did they have a code or a key? What time did anyone, if anyone, arrive at the farm? Right? And I think, once some of these questions are answered, we'll be fine. Yeah, so like I was saying, sorry, got interrupted. Once those questions are answered, then we'll, get a little bit more understanding of what's happening. It's going to put us at a peace of mind. There's also people on the internet that's saying there's no way this is true. Some people are saying, well, yeah, she was silenced and she was taken out and blah, 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 blah. But we don't know. Another situation that I was going to look into and look more deep into is her posts. I mean, that one post where she's really talking about she's ready to go, but she wants to see her kids one more time. What does that post mean? And she wants to thank you all. And apparently that was supposed to be, that post was meant for Facebook private messaging, but somehow ended up on Instagram public. So that is really weird. And like I said, it seems like that, I mean, when you read that one part of the post where it says, yeah, I'm ready to go, but not until I see my children one last time. And she wants to thank you all for, the people of the world and blah, blah, blah. That kind of is leading towards, ma'am, are you a little suicidal now? What's going on, right? So that has me puzzled, guys. So I would ask these questions, like, what time? Yeah. Oh yeah. The month before the post alert, like, were her posts leading to what happened? Do you guys believe that her post was like leading to what happened? Or do you think, it was not indicating suicidal thoughts? I want to know what you guys thought of this. There was another part where somebody was speaking about Virginia, Miss Virginia Roberts, and Miss Virginia was apparently in times, I think her mother said this, she would always look to her children for strength and courage, if I'm not mistaken. Virginia often looked at her children for strength and courage when going through hard times and the dark times of facing all the stuff she was facing. So my thing is, if that's the case, why did she unalive herself if she really did? Is it because they were planning on taking her children away? Because remember, I'm going to show you guys posts from March 1st going all the way to like March 22nd, and the March 22nd post is like she's literally saying don't take her children. They can abuse her, they can beat her, she doesn't care, they can do anything to her, but do not take her children away. And it seems like with the violence restraining order that Robert, her husband, Robert Giuffre, had against her might have, caused some issues with her time being a mom. Maybe seeing the children. Even in that same, like I said, that same March 22nd post where she's posting about her kids, she was even saying her kids are being poisoned with lies. So I'm starting to think that she was not able to see her children, and someone was poisoning her children's mind. At least that's what she thought or thinks. And that could have well been motive for her to unalive herself. So it's like, on one hand, I can see where people are going to say, yeah, this was definitely her doing it to herself. And on the other hand, I can understand the internet saying, no, she didn't. She fully had a post back in 2019 saying to the public, she's going to publicly let it known she was not. But, I mean, six years later, something could have changed. 6 years later, she's not with her husband anymore. She's not living with them anymore with her kids. All of these things could have changed. Now, my thing is, why did it take the accident of March 24th to happen, and then she ends up in the hospital March 30th, only to open up while she's in the hospital to say that Robert Giuffre has been abusing her this whole time? What broke the camel's back? What straw did it? Is it the kids not being there? Her not having a relationship and stability anymore? Or her now starting to feel like she's damaged goods because she's no longer with her husband? Maybe all along, because there was a post where I told you, she posted up that her husband, Robert Giuffre, is the one who saved her from Epstein and G.Maxwell. He saved her from their hold. So now that all of that seems to be crumbling, remember, she's been publicly putting on this fight, as a victim. Can all of this possibly be a situation of where I gotta be careful, guys. But is this a situation where Virginia felt like she was losing everything, losing her identity in a sense, starting to feel worthless maybe? I mean, being a victim of sensual trafficking and all of that stuff, there has to be a part of you as a woman or a male, whichever one of you go through that, is the fact that she did not grow up and make the decision to do this on her own. This was something she was manipulated into, and then kind of had no choice after a while. So my thing is this: as a woman and as a young person, man or woman, as a young person, after going through such demonizing and what you would call disgusting acts for years, where you felt like you had no choice, you would feel dirty, you would feel nasty, you would feel disgraced, but if you have a support system around you, okay, you're able to get out of that. You got a husband, you got children. It's kind of like, well, I beat the odds, because the stereotype is that women like me, or people like me, who's been through such devastating things in their life and came out of it, usually don't get the happy ending of, where someone will look at you and put you in a pedestal and marry you and give you children and all that stuff, right? You like, I don't want to be degrading, but you would be looked at as someone people would degrade, people would look down on, right? So when you come out of that and you have a husband and you have children, it's like you get this power, this empowerment to now stand up to your abusers and your oppressors. So you had the strength, apart from mom, dad, and brother and sisters and whoever, you had this extra strength of what you call a strong love foundation. So having your husband and your children who you know endlessly, and they just love you no matter what. You're willing to, go through and fight everything through. However, when that seems to be snatched away from you, like going through the split with your husband, that's one thing. If the kids got to stay with you, right? But if the kids are not with you and they're with him, it's like, okay, now you're snatching my husband, you're snatching my children. You're snatching the one thing that had me strong, the one thing that gave me strength and courage. You're snatching it away from me. So now that leaves me to either do two things: grab onto crazy stories to try to cope, do crazy things to try to cope, or I go back into this depressive state and I want to take myself out. That could be her situation. Very well be her situation. Or this could be a situation where she's silenced. Because even though, yes, she settled with Prince Andrew, yes. Epstein took himself out in 2019, yes. But remember, Trump is in power again. And Trump promised to release and unseal evidence from the Epstein case. However, the little bit of crap that they apparently released was all bullshit. Virginia herself said that a lot of the excerpts that they took were from her case. None of it was new evidence that we haven't heard about. We've already heard about the flight logs and, people that might be in the flight logs. This is like from since 2019 when the story broke. These are the exact same thing they're vomiting back up. Okay? And like she said, most was from her case. They did not involve the pictures. They did not involve videos. And you know why that is. There is more prominent people involved in this situation. And this is why I believe this could be a reason why she was silent. This could have been her way, because you just don't understand. This could have been another attempt for Virginia now to come forward and said, no, there were such and such parts of videos that you guys didn't show and I can talk about it. Or maybe her and her lawyer would have tried to maybe get the evidence themselves and release it, right? Which could have implicated prominent people. This is what I believe. I'm not talking like I know. Please. This is not all facts. This is just speculation for me. We're having a conversation. We're sipping on some wine and we're having some conversation. Okay? Because this is just weird. In my eyes, right? And since we had people like, you know what's crazy too? When Virginia got recognized by Maxwell, she was actually working out of a Mar-a-Lago, one of Trump's Mar-a-Lago towers. Okay, let's start there. Okay, so there's definitely more prominent people involved in this case. However, the one person that could have came up publicly and speak about it was Virginia Louise Roberts, okay? Later became Virginia Giuffre. But we shall remember her as Virginia Louise Roberts. today, we'd like to say rest in peace, because she's no longer here with us, to tell the truth. Rest in peace. I don't know if you will really be able to rest in peace, but I pray that you do. And I pray that whatever and whomever is responsible for this, if anyone is allegedly responsible for this, that the truth will come out and justice will be swiftly served. Because, like I said, I'm not 100% sure if this is all you know, doing whatever. But yeah, this is sad. So we're almost an hour into this, guys, so I am definitely going to end it here. I'm going to keep up this story close to me, and I'm going to try to update it. Like I said, this segment will be on every Saturday in the evening. Grab your whiskey, grab your coffee, your tea, mimosa, your wine, whatever it is, baby. Okay? And have a good listen. Every now and then I'll be posting little pics here and there to go with the video. So if you do watch it on YouTube, you can definitely, look at some of the videos. If not, you can listen to wherever you listen to your podcast, guys. I'm also going to insert just a little piece of video of Virginia Giuffre at the time. At the time she was Virginia Giuffre, stating how everything happened, where she met G.Maxwell, the recruiter. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, guys. See y'all. Spice Island Podcast, and this is the What in the Bleep is going on?
I've been fighting that very world to this day, and I won't stop fighting. I will never be silenced until these people are brought to justice. So,
yeah, one more time.
I was recruited at a very young age from Mar-a-Lago.
I was recruited at a very young age from Mar-a-Lago. So, we're going to do more about this on Sunday because we switched to Rumble anyway, so we'll go into more detail about.
On the up and up, Dave, I am on the so much. I am on the up and up, day 5 in ICU. I'm too tough for something like this to take me down, and I got a bionic spine out of it, so that's pretty cool. Anyways, I just wanted to do this to tell you all how much I appreciate your kind comments, and it's good to see the world caring so much about each other. Love you all. Bye. I just wanted to say a quick thank you to all of my supporters on Facebook and Instagram, on Twitter, and all around the world, family and friends. Thank you for caring so much. I am